Marianne, please help. The writing appears on the wall above the stairs. It is not neat. It is not confident. It is desperate, a scrawl, half-formed as if the hand that made it was shaking, or fading, or both. Marianne Foyster has been living in this house for 3 years. She has watched objects move without being touched. She has heard sounds with no source. She has sat across from people in darkened rooms who claim to be speaking to the dead. The writing keeps appearing. She cannot work out who is doing it. Welcome to Unquiet Britain. 3 stories. A woman hanged for praying in the wrong language. A man who claimed to master the devil, and may have done. And a house that refuses, across 3 centuries, to be quiet. Agnes Waterhouse is 63 years old. She is from Hatfield, Peverell, a village in Essex, and she is standing in a courtroom in Chelmsford in the summer of 1566. The charge: witchcraft. The chief witness against her is 12 years old. The girl's name is Agnes Brown. She testifies that Agnes Waterhouse sent her a cat named Satan, to torment her. She described the cat in some detail. It had, she says, the head of an ape, horns, a silver whistle around its neck, and the court accepts this. Agnes had a familiar, that much she confessed to herself, a creature she kept and fed and sent out on errands. It killed a neighbour's livestock. It bewitched a man to death. It spoiled butter. These were the accusations, and Agnes did not deny them. What sealed her fate was something simpler. When asked to recite the Lord's Prayer, Agnes Waterhouse said it in Latin. In Protestant England in 1566, that was enough. Latin was the language of the Old Faith, the Catholic Church that England had just spent 30 years dismantling. To pray in Latin was to align yourself with something forbidden, something suspect, something that the new order had decided was dangerous. Agnes Waterhouse was hanged at Chelmsford in 1566. She was probably the first woman in England to be executed for witchcraft under the new statutes. Her daughter, Joan, was spared. Her mother, Joan Waterhouse, who had confessed to similar crimes, was hanged alongside her. She was not a witch. She was a woman of 63 who prayed in Latin and kept a cat. Essex would hang many more before it was done. James Murrell is walking home through Hadley. It is some time after midnight. It is always after midnight with Murrell. He never travels in daylight if he can help it. He carries an umbrella in all weathers. He does not explain why, and nobody asks. From 1812 to 1860, Murrell is the most famous man in Essex. He is the 7th son of a 7th son, born into a tradition that grants certain men an instinctive knowledge of the hidden world. His house has gone now, but in his time it was full of the tools of his trade, a magic mirror for finding lost and stolen property, witch bottles packed with blood and urine and hair, a copper charm that could distinguish, he claimed, between honest and dishonest clients. He called himself the Devil's Master. What Murrell actually was, in the language of his time, was a cunning man, a white magician, someone who used the vocabulary and the fear of witchcraft not to harm, but to heal, to recover, to protect. He was enormously successful. One story is told about a girl brought to him who had been cursed by a woman and was barking like a dog. Murrell heated his witch bottle at midnight in absolute silence. The object inside had to reach boiling point, and he worked without speaking. The next morning, the charred body of a woman was found in a nearby lane. Murrell said nothing about it. He also predicted the exact minute of his own death, December the 15th, 1860. He was right to the minute. He is buried in an unmarked grave in Hadley churchyard. The mirror, the bottles, the copper charm, all gone. The man who claimed to master the devil dissolved back into the same Essex soil that produced him. Shortly after Murrell's death, at the nearby Essex-Suffolk border, the building that would become the site of Britain's most documented hauntings stood. Ugly, oversized, more rooms than any rector needed. And its residents were under siege from a spirit, the spirit of a nun. Her name, according to the records, is Marie Lair. She came from France, from a convent in Le Havre. And somewhere in the mid-17th century, she ended up in the Waldegrave family's manor. The story told about her is that she was lured away from her vows, married a member of the family, and was strangled on May the 17th, 1667. She was buried in the grounds. The rectory built on the site in 1863, a large Victorian building, had mystery built into the foundations. The nun was seen walking the grounds. A spectral coach drawn by headless horses came tearing through the garden and disappeared through the wall. The Bull family lived there for decades. They largely ignored the presences. Harry Bull, who held the rectory until 1927, was said to have found the coach and the presence comforting in his later years. In 1930, the Reverend Lionel Foyster moved in with his young wife, Marianne. What happened over the next 5 years is still not entirely agreed upon. The penciled scribblings appeared on the walls, addressed to Marianne, begging for help, for light, for mass. Many were illegible, some were not. Objects moved, candles were demanded, doors locked themselves. A séance was held, and for a while the phenomena practically ceased. Suspicion arose that Marianne Foyster was somehow responsible. She denied it. In 1937, the house now empty, Harry Price, a well-known investigator of psychic phenomena, leased the building for a year. He advertised for investigators. 40 people responded. Rooms were sealed. Thermometers were placed in every corridor, and candlesticks hurled themselves, thrown by unseen hands. At a séance that year, a spirit announced that the rectory would burn down that very night. It did not. But 11 months later, on February the 27th, 1939, a paraffin lamp toppled over without explanation. The house burned furiously. People watching from the lane saw strange figures moving in the smoke, silhouetted against the flame-lit window in an upstairs room, the form of a nun. In 1943, Price returned to the ruin and excavated the cellar. 3 feet beneath the floor, he found the bones of a young woman. They were given a Christian burial. The nun is still occasionally reported near the site. The rectory is gone, the grounds remain, and some people still will tell you she walks there. Essex hanged Agnes Waterhouse for praying in Latin. It watched James Murrell walk its lanes at midnight for 50 years and decided he was useful. It stood in a field in 1939 and watched a building burn and saw a shape in the window, a shape that defied explanation. Agnes Waterhouse was not a witch. She was 63 years old, and she said her prayers the wrong way, in the wrong place, in the wrong century. The bones beneath Borley were real. What put them there was never recorded. The walls asked for help, and nobody answered. This is Unquiet Britain.